Well, hello and thanks for joining us again. We're still down here in Queen Creek, Arizona. We're at the Horseshoe Park and they're kind of buzzing around, so there's lots going on here. We're having a good time. Looking forward to the clinic coming up this week. But right now we're talking about bits. And what we're talking about is what bit you want to put in your horse's mouth, when to use it, how to know it's the right bit. All of that's coming up right here on Discovering the Horseman Within.
Gonna take a ride on one true horse.
So what we're talking about this week is the lifter bit, and we've changed it a little bit, redesigned it, took the little bit of slide and gag out of it. This is a bit that I created, I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago, and I really like it. In fact, I probably do 70% of my riding in the lifter bit. Because the way it's designed, it works like a snaffle. There's no leverage, and we're going to talk about leverage next week. But the lifter, it works like a teeter-totter. There's as much purchase or metal above the mouthpiece as there is shank or metal below the mouthpiece, right? So they work exactly like a teeter-totter. So if you put a 50-pound weight on one end of a teeter-totter and a 50-pound weight on the other end, it balances out. Same thing here. So what we've done with the lifter is we've added pole pressure to the horse. When you pick up on the reins, the horse's mouth, the bit works like the center of the teeter-totter, like the fulcrum. So it feels the pressure, but the pressure is also applied equally to the pole and equally applied to the shank in the bit. I use it like a snaffle. You pull a direct rein if you want to, but you also now have a shanked bit. So you're getting the horse ready for pole pressure. There's a slot down there. You can put a chin strap on him and start getting him ready for curb pressure. I don't use it with a chin strap very often. So I'm using Chico, and Chico's a fantastic horse. I love this horse. I've been really blessed over the years to have some great horses to ride in preparation for our sale every year. And Chico's a horse I've known since he was a 2-year-old and got the chance to have him to ride this year, and I'm super excited about it. Really neat horse. And much more finished than where I'm riding him, but I chose that because I want to show you how you use the lifter bit. Remember last week I said you use the snaffle to get all the body control you want. So I go back and I just use the lifter like the snaffle, and I go back through those exercises. I pick up on that direct rein and I wait for him to be soft and just say, hey, look, are we here together? This is an exercise I do all the time, right? I just go back and I work my horse's body and drive his hind end up to that bit, make sure he's there with me, make sure he's paying attention, bring him back around. Pick up on 2 reins, just like we did in the snaffle bit last week, and make sure this horse is soft on 2 reins. That's where I want him. Now, the lifter, again, is acting much like the snaffle, except we're applying pole pressure through the headstall. So now take the horse, put your leg on him, move those shoulders over. Let's find out how broke this horse is. What body parts can I move? I move his shoulders over. I like that. I put my leg in position 1 right here and just move his shoulders over. Now I'm going to take this inside leg off and put my outside leg on position 1 and move his shoulders back right there. Walk him out of it. Take this leg now, put it in position 1, move his shoulders over. Take this leg off, outside leg position 1, move his shoulders back, right? I'm feeling where my horse's body is. That's what the lifter is about. It's about preparing him to be finished. I trail ride in it, I work cattle in it, I do everything in this bit. Now I'm going to take my leg and I'm going to skip position 2 and I'm going to jump back to position 3, and I'm going to pick up on both reins equally, shut the front end down, and move this horse's hind end around really nicely right there. Ride forward, right? And take this leg, push it back here to position 3, move this horse's hind end around. Nice and soft. Drop those reins and ride him out of it. Let him have a break. He's doing fantastic. One of the things that we think a lot about is how do we take our horse from kindergarten to college, right? Well, part of what happens, do you remember kindergarten? I loved kindergarten. It was great because you had show and tell. And then after show and tell, you practiced your ABCs, and then you had my personal favorite, snack time, and then you had recess, and you came back in from recess and you had the teacher's personal favorite, nap time, right? No lesson lasted too long, right? But in first grade, they changed all that, and we went to 45-minute lessons and recess, right? And by the time you were in 7th grade, they took recess away. And school got kind of tough. And then you got to college. And in college, school was fun, right? Because you chose to study what you wanted to study, classes were fun, you had a good time. That's the way finishing a horse is. So I look at where we're at right here as sort of the in-between step. This is maybe like his senior year. He's still working with this bit, but he's ready for college. And this horse has been to college, but when I get into the lifter, he's ready for college, right? So I move my legs front and back. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna pick up position 2 now. And I'm gonna lift on this horse just a little bit. And what I love about the lifter is you're starting to go one-handed, right? You have that ability now to pick up equally on both sides of my horse's face. I have the ability to break it apart and use 2 hands, or put it together and use 1 hand. That's one of the things I really love about the lifter bit. I know I've got my horse's body pretty good here. I'm working through his body. He's moving it pretty good. I'm gonna come towards the camera and I'm gonna pick up I'm gonna put my left leg or outside leg in position 3 and move his hip away from my leg while coming forward. This is an exercise that I think is really critical. We're gonna talk about it more in a few weeks in our lead series that's coming up. But I want to make sure my horse has really got all of these buttons where they belong, okay? And so when I know he has all of these buttons, then I'm ready to start picking it up a little bit more. So I want to take him up, pick him up to the lope, and I want to go back and try this stuff. I want to go back and soften this horse's nose just a little bit. Make sure he's where I want him to be. And right here is where the lifter really starts to shine, because even Chico is just pushing the bit a little tiny bit. So when I feel him pushing that bit, when I pick up on it, he gets equal pressure in his ears. That fast, he's encouraged to put his nose down. What does every horse do when we go faster? They elevate their head. But as we go faster here, he's encouraged to put his nose down. So we just keep riding him up here, pick him up, use this bit to ride this horse into what I want him to be, right? And one of the things I tell people in all of my clinics, you know why our horses don't lope well? Because we don't lope them enough, right? In fact, if you lope your horse for a couple of minutes, you're gonna think you loped him for a very long time. I'm gonna ease down to transition down to a trot. Change directions with him and pick him up and take him the other way. In reality, if you want your horse to lope well, then what you need to do is set your timer, right? We all have a timer on our phones, and most of us have phones anymore, unfortunately, right? So you set your timer for 10 minutes. Lope your horse 10 minutes one way, and then lope him 10 minutes the other way. And when you're doing that, be working on softening this horse's face. Don't be holding on him the whole time. If you're holding here and you're straining and you're squeezing, you gotta relax. Relax your wrists, let your arms get soft, sit deep on this horse and lope him until he starts to soften his face and get better. And again, this is where the lifter bit, in my opinion, really shines. I love this bit because it really helps set that horse's head down. And for me, keeping my horse's head down is critical. I need to be able to keep my horse looking at the terrain we're covering or looking a cow in the eye. Now, he doesn't need to drag his nose in the dirt, but I want him, that's too far down maybe, but I want him to roll downhill from his withers. I want him paying attention. I want him looking at that cow. I want him knowing where we're going. When I'm trying to rope something, the last thing I need is my horse's ears up here in my way. I need him down paying attention to what we're doing. That's what headset is really all about. My horse focusing on what we're doing. The lifter bit is designed to be a transition between the snaffle and a leverage bit. A lot of people ask me, why do I need to move out of a snaffle? You don't. It's a matter of whether or not you want to. You can ride in a snaffle your whole life, but if you're going to show this horse, most associations require that he have a leverage bit. So what we did with the lifter is we designed it like a teeter-totter. There's as much purchase as there is shank, right? So if you measure the purchase where the headstall hooks and you measure the shank where the rein hooks, they're equal. That means you're exactly like a teeter-totter. If you put a pound of pressure here, there's a pound of pressure here, that means the center of the bit works like a fulcrum, and that never feels any more pressure than you're applying to your hand. Same concept behind a snaffle. Well then, why did you make it if it's like a snaffle? Because when you apply pressure to the shank, it rotates the purchase forward, and as it rotates the purchase forward, it adds pressure to the horse's poll, encouraging him to lower his head. And every leverage bit applies pressure to the poll. So a snaffle only applies pressure in the mouth, the leverage bit applies it in the poll, the curb strap, and in the mouth. The lifter bit gives you the opportunity to apply pressure in all three locations and get this horse ready to move up into a leverage bridle to a finished stage of training. That's what the lifter bit is all about. It's time to work on the canter depart. So what I want to do here, I want to pick up on him, and again, I love this because the lifter doesn't apply a ton of leverage, and we're going to talk about leverage next week and talk about how much you have to pay attention to your hands. But with the lifter, it's just like the habit you had in the snaffle. It's the same pressure. So I can take a hold of him, move my leg back to my third position, push his hip to the inside, and then ask him to lope off. And when he trots, I'm going to stop him and say, no, no, no. Set up, lope off. When he trots, I'm going to stop him, and this time I'm going to back him up. And I'm going to load him up on his hocks just a little bit, but I'm going to keep my outside leg pushing his hip over here. Then I'm going to ask him to lope off. There. The reason we kept that hip to the inside is because we need to lope off on the correct lead. So I'll lope him off a few strides, let him set. I'm going to pick him up again. The reason we stop him when he trots off is because he needs to start learning, no, that's not acceptable. Outside leg pushing his hip that direction. Now, pick up on him and lope off. There, no, we're not going to trot. So we're going to back him up, load him up onto those hindquarters so he can push off. There we go. Okay, we'll lope him around here. Bring him down. Release him. Let him know, hey, you did a good job. You tried hard. A lot of it is just repetitive trying, right? You pick up on this rein, push this hip to the inside, and lope off. Right there, okay? Want that horse to lope off, nice and soft and easy, and make it look pretty. Now another key to loping nicely is looking where you want to go. If you're staring at the back of your horse's head, you can't steer. Keep your eyes up and look where you want to go. Keep your inside shoulder lifted, right? Now here's another thing that starts to happen. We've got this lifter bit. We're starting to go one-handed. This hand is there to kind of adjust if I need it, but I can start taking this horse with this lifter, riding him with my seat and legs, and putting him where I need him to be. All right here. Look where I want to go, ride him there. Right here, reach up there with the second hand. Why? Because I felt him leaning on me just a little bit. Take my leg and push him out of the circle. Inside leg pushes him out of the circle just a little bit because he's diving. Look where I want to go. Right here, his nose tipped to the outside, so my second hand straightens him up just a little bit, brings his nose in, and I ride him right here. I start releasing him just a little bit, dropping my hand down, keep him riding right there, pick him up, put my hand down. Pick him up, put my hand down. What I love about the lifter is everything actually, but one of the things that I love is that we mimic both sides of the coin. We start out, we're mimicking what we're going to do in a snaffle bit. We progress till we mimic what we're going to do in a finished bridle, right? And it gives us the ability to go back and forth and work both directions. As I come around here, I want to see him keep his head right. Consistency, right? We talk a lot about character traits. Consistency is critical in horsemanship. You have to have this consistency. Take my right leg now, push it back to position 3, move my horse's left hip towards the camera, and ask him to lope off. Well, he walked way too far and then tried to jump. Back him up. Right leg, position 3, pushes that hip over. All right. Now, ask him. He threw his head up and trotted into it. We're not going to do that. So I'm going to shorten up on him, keep his nose a little deeper, and push. A lot of pop going on here. I want him flatter. Push. Push off that hindquarters. There we go. Much better. He kept his head flat and loped off. But just because your horse does it one time doesn't make him finished. You have to be consistent to practice. Push that hip over. Right here I use the inside rein to keep the shoulder out and push that hip over. That was ugly. Every which way you could count it, it was ugly. Much better, right? Elevated his nose a little bit, so we're going to work on that. But he loped out of his tracks. That was nice. Soften on him here. 2 hands, say, hey, come on, pick up. And put my hand back where it belongs, looking where I want to go. Slow him down. Move his shoulders out just a little bit. Push his hip in. Now I told you we're going to keep his nose. He popped that nose a little bit. Not bad, but we'll do it again. Push that hip out. Much better. He still elevated his front end a little bit, but he didn't throw his nose out. His ears came up that time, but his nose didn't swing out, okay? So we'll work on that. I want him to just quietly lope right out of his tracks. He lopes out of his tracks to the right much easier than he does the left. Right there, he was a little slow shutting down. I let him trot to a stop the last couple times. So that time when I asked him to stop, he didn't stop as good. So pick him up, fix it. Much better. Loped out of his tracks nicely. And we're gonna lope him around here and we're gonna set him up for that stop again. Because I want everything good. That's what the lifter is about. The lifter is about making sure before we go on that everything is pretty. Whoa. Back him up. That was an ugly stop. He should have stopped better. Lope him forward. Whoa. A little better. Right there, he started to really hop and I caught him. He flattened out a bit. Whew. Much prettier stop. He's kind of pushing his shoulder into it. So we'll take his shoulder away. Lope out of his tracks the other way. Really nice. I like that. I love this horse. This is such a fun horse to ride. He tries so hard for you all the time. Dependability. It's being reliable or worthy of trust. I was a 16-year-old kid and I had just got a driver's license and was pulling a horse trailer. And I was at a ranch helping gather for the day, and when the day was over, they were putting horses everywhere. And this guy that was day working said, "Ken, could you haul my horse home?" I said, "Well, I can haul him to my house. I don't have time to take him to your house tonight, but I can take him there in the next day or two." He said, "Okay." Well, 3 days went by, 4 days went by. Probably about the 5th day, I got a phone call. And he said, "You know, Ken, if you didn't want to do me a favor, you never should have agreed to it in the first place. I thought you were dependable. I thought you were reliable." I've never forgotten that lesson. Dependability and reliability are so important. If people can't depend on you, then really you can't help them. It's the same with your horse. You need to be dependable for your horse. He needs to know you're there to help him in every situation. You are his security. You are his leadership. Everything we do in life, our word is our bond. We need to be dependable to follow through with what we started, finish what we started out to do, and make sure that the people around us understand that that's who we are. I tell my boys all the time, live your life in such a way that the people who know and love you can depend on you, and you'll always be able to depend on them. I love bringing a horse along to a point of finished, and I love bringing him along and switching bits as we go. To bring that horse along, it's really fun to know what bit, when, and where. We're going to keep talking about that in the next couple weeks. Until then, may God bless the trails you ride.
Find out more about Ken McNabb horsemanship at kenmcnabb.com.
That one true horse, the perfect partner built to ride. One true horse, a bond that cannot be denied. You would search forever just to have the chance to take a ride on one.